some of the stunts he does. Right.
The jumping of cars in this, John, was insane.
Oh my
Just,
God.
it made it fun though, right? It made it. Oh man. It's but I'm happy you suggested this, right, for our Kurt Russell.
Well, I mean,
what made
we
you
were
want to
going to
suggest
get
this?
to it inevitably, but I just knew that I had seen it suggested on my Amazon for a while, so it's been in my head. And then I was thinking, man, I haven't seen used cars in probably like all the way through anyway in like 10 years. And so, yeah, it was hot on my list when we were thinking of the next one to do.
You know that car scene when they had the strippers, the lady that Rudy was dancing with, Kurt Russell? She went on to become a director. She directed Dr. Dolittle and a bunch of films. She became a director.
She had the Playboy bunny pasties.
Yeah. And also the script supervisor asked to be part of that scene. And they're like, she couldn't dance, so we just cut her out of the scene.
You know something funny about that scene is that and again, I'm watching this with my cousin. We're kind of like sharing our opinions about it as we go. So of all of the gratuitous nudity I've ever seen in a movie, if I was like, I don't know, 15 or 25 years old, or it doesn't matter, even today, and I'm watching that scene when they're doing that with the music and the dancing, there's something about the music and flashing back to Jack Warden's just appalled, incredulous face, and going back to Kurt Russell dancing, where I felt like it was the most acceptably non-gratuitous display of gratuitous nudity ever. If my mother walked in on me when that was on, I wouldn't be embarrassed. I'd keep laughing.
Whereas the entire family, everyone runs over, right, John? Like the entire crowd,
which is even more laughable, right?
Yeah,
it's like they make such light of it. But like if you're watching a Jason movie or a Freddy movie and there's nudity and your mom walks in, you're going to be like, okay, this is the one scene like this in the movie, Mom, I swear, right? But in this, I don't know. It feels wholesome isn't the word, but it feels so much more acceptable. Mm-hmm. With these characters in this scene, with the music they were playing. The music was very light. It wasn't raunchy. It was actually very light and playful and energetic music. Right? I mean, it was, and they're doing the disco dancing to it. And when he was doing the disco, I'm like, he is bringing his A game right now. And that's a trailer moment from the distance.
Everyone just seemed to be having fun, right? Everyone just seemed to be having a good time. It just didn't seem like not like American Pie where it's a bunch of people watching a video camera against someone not knowing, right? This is just a scene, like a party scene. This is, or like even the camera isn't exact. Oh, there's some gratuitous shots during that thing, but it just seems like a raucous party type scene, not a. I know what you mean. It's still gratuitous, but
even still, it's balanced with things that remind you of the atmosphere of the scene. So it's not like, here's this scene where Jason is stalking someone. Oh, now here's just a close-up of someone's boobs while they're showering. You know, it never feels blatant. It never feels crass. It's not cheap about it. It was very tactful. It made it a part of the scene.
And I think that's why it still has good reviews. I mean, I think that's why it's still fresh on Rotten Tomatoes. I think that's why some people say it's still a cult classic. It's good on IMDb. It has a good score all around because I think it is kind of bleak. Like the guy dies and they just bury him. And then he wants to become a corrupt politician and they lie to this people. And these are not good humans, but it has this likability to it. Mm-hmm. It's a you know what also it is Kurt Russell's very Rudy Russo is very open in regards to who he is. There's not, he never makes excuses for who he is. He never tries to lie. Like, remember, this sounds bad, but like in Breaking Bad, he was always lying, like, I am not a drug dealer. How dare you? Rudy's just like, let's go. Like, we got to do this. Let's bury this body. Like, he's very unapologetic about who he is. And so is everyone else. And that energy seems to carry through. If that, right. He's very,
I think that's fair. Yeah. I mean, even in the very beginning, his first full scene, right? With the owner who dies very shortly thereafter, he's saying like, did you use the old fishing line thing? It's like, well, come on, I can't sell him if I don't get him onto the lot.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I did. And I also love the scene where he just starts throwing around Luke and just tossing him around. Then he has to give him pills, but he does not care about his well-being at all. Like, he just tosses him around. He's just sort of a force of nature who wants to become a corrupt politician, which is the weirdest plot line, but it works. And I don't know. You know what's interesting too is you get some of these gratuitous or these let's say National Lampoon-esque movies where you get kind of like man children, like in Hall Pass or Old School, or
Mm-hmm.
you get all these different types. Like Rudy's not that guy. Rudy is not a. I wouldn't call him a man child. He's not a mopey, worried about his life. He's just a. I mean, he has a lot of celery and pickles and beer in his fridge, which is
That's
interesting.
all. I love his refrigerator. It's
Yeah.
why the celery?
Maybe he's doing vodka
More,
tomato juice in the
okay,
morning to
yes,
wake
in the
up.
morning. Okay,
Does that make sense? Or
it
like
does,
peanut
but
butter
I
and
would have
celery?
liked to have seen that somewhere.
It was the 80s. Doesn't he like peanut butter and celery? Does that make like so? I don't like these movies where the character is really mopey or he just
Right,
going
they're
through a
down,
midlife
and we're gonna watch
crisis.
them get their pickup. Right, it's not
Yeah,
that.
I'm mopey for no reason, or I'm just Rudy's just a force of nature who's completely open about who he is. He has a little bit of character development in this. He actually ends up helping out at the end by insane manners, and he's still going to be shisty the rest of his life. But I like when we meet him, he's not down and out. He's not. I feel like Rudy could go anywhere and do all right. He's just that type of guy. Like he could find a used car lot anywhere in the world and be fine. It's just or maybe not. Maybe he's on parole. But I like that kind of character, and that character speaks to me more so than just oh I'm a man. You know, it's not like I'm not happy with my life, so I'm gonna start a fraternity. Like I don't like that. Like that's why I like Rudy, and maybe that's why this movie also works well because he is so unapologetic. He just does these schemes. He interrupts the president's address, and
Address,
you
whatever.
know they went to Washington D.C. and dressed up in suits and went on top of a building and shot something, and no one questioned them. But they actually went up there. They scouted it, and they acted like they knew what they were doing, and shot that scene. They went to D.C. for a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And, I don't know. It's just a and you know, those guys are capable though. Michael McKean, who from Spinal Tap, like these guys actually interrupted a presidential address, or they went to a football game. They went to the football game because they had no budget and all the cars were parked there anyway. Then they did that for production value when there was a football game. They knew that they could interrupt that and get people watching. So these are like they got some pretty capable people pulling off some pretty shisty stunts. And that's another refreshing thing to it. I know I keep saying, do you know what I mean? But that's another reason why I enjoy this movie. It's capable people going through these things.
Well, and, it's like we talk about with so many, people who do a great film for their first film on a low budget, and then they get a big budget, and people aren't as impressed with whatever they do. Well, like they were forced to be creative.
Yeah, and they were right.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Even
and I love when that guy got his chest bopped. Remember, he had the pacemaker installed, and the guy hit it.
If I can make and install a pacemaker and have it in this man's chest, and he's like whapping it, and it's like half sticking out, he's whapping it, and they even say like, so how do you change the battery? He's like, oh, I just so funny, so ridiculous.
But I love that about it. The guy actually made a functioning pacemaker. Like I like those characters.
Right. In this world, we are given that as not exaggeration, but actual truth.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I love Hot Rod. I love movies like that. But he's not a good stuntman. So you're just watching this guy who's not good at anything maybe become good at something. I like watching people who are already capable to begin with sort of going through. But that is a lot of Kurt Russell, right? We've talked about so many of his films. Where Escape from New York, Escape from LA, Snake's extremely capable, but he's out of his league, but he keeps moving forward. Big Trouble in Little China, he just keeps moving forward. He's a truck driver, good reflexes. I think that's like the Kurt Russell motto right there, is keep going forward. He doesn't stop in his movies, if that makes
Ron.
sense. Yeah, Captain Ron. Holy crap, right?
We're going to the island just to the left of it.
Wow. So would you say that? Like, and even Hateful Eight, he's the capable guy who just kind of keeps moving forward.
Yeah, there's no regrouping. There's never the regrouping scene where I have to assemble a team. He's just like, this is what I've got. Next step.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Yeah. It's a pretty good theme, though, in his movies, isn't it?
Right.
Oh, man. So, I mean, you went and rewatched this again. I mean, what was the difference between a full watch now and a full watch 10 years ago for you?
Boy, it's like, I don't know how to put it other than younger John, like 30-year-old John, or even 20-something-year-old John, or teenage John watching this is just watching a movie that is back to back over the top hilarious gags.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and because they're so criminal, you laugh even harder at the shooting cars on camera while the owner of the cars is watching it on TV while the presidential address is being interrupted, right?
It's interesting the things you can pull off in movies when you have a certain lead, where I think if you had another lead in it, it would come across completely different. I mean, imagine if Chevy Chase was in that, it would be, I don't know.
With his like blander delivery, his more like deadpan delivery. Yeah, I don't think it would be as good. He does a little manic well, and he does deadpan or straight well. I don't know about this.
Mm-hmm.
There's so many of these gags though, and the movie's so rich with gags. You never go very long without a gag, without something where you would at least be thinking in your head, "Oh my God." Like even in the beginning, before the gags, this is what I'm still reflecting on watching this as like 18, 20, 30, whatever. So I'm not really taking in the whole product. I'm just always in the moment when I watch a movie that is this good and this on point and this unrelenting at being ridiculous.
Mm-hmm. And I love unrelenting ridiculousness.
Yes.
I like that. And I found the quote that I was looking for that I couldn't find before. But what I like about Rudy, and I think Bob Gale summed it up when he said he's honest about his dishonesty. Sure. It's a quote I really like about that. And also, when they came up with this movie, they were still young. And so they built this movie around scenes. So they built this movie around the insane car thing at the end with people counting cars, that massive cattle, like almost a stampede of cars. They wrote it around 3 or 4 moments, and they built it around it. But this movie could have been just like build to a set piece, build to a set piece. But there's enough little gags and tiny moments. Oh, okay. So one of the best moments in the movie, and I didn't catch this, I had to listen to the commentary. But when Jack Warden's dying, and the guy's like, here's my money, take my money.
Because before he was saying $50 never killed anyone.
Uh-huh. And then he's like, take my money, I'm sorry. Well, he's handing his money, and the guy's dying. He's a used car salesman, a car sales lot owner, and he still takes the guy's money. Like that guy's like, give me the money, and Jack Warden takes the money. Like that's because he's a car salesman. He wants the money.
That scene, I'm watching that scene, and I'm like, you laugh hard at things, but when you're by yourself, you actually tend to laugh less, even though it's internalized. Mm-hmm. That is a scene where I'm just like yelling in my living room by myself, because when he breaks in, his face, like the pressure that he generates to get his face all red, and he immediately is drooling 2 streams out of either side of his mouth of like thick, it looks like milk curd coming out of his mouth. I'm like, you could have put this shot, that 2-second shot of him breaking down through the door, in a zombie movie, and it would be an impressive scene in a zombie movie. I mean, it's so good. He is so giving it his all. It's such a funny thing.
Jack Warden turned this movie down. This was his first R-rated movie. And then they eventually just said, okay, you can play both characters, because people want to have death scenes. They want to play 2 characters in the same movie. That's what Zemeckis was saying. So Jack Warden's like, I can play 2 characters and swear. So he's like, all right, cool. But he's fun in this movie, man. He really brings it, Warden does. And this is an inside baseball type thing, but when they were on set, Garrett Graham was trying to talk really slow. I am going to say my dialogue really slow so that I can get more screen time.
Oh, really?
And,
okay.
Jack Warden goes up to him like, listen, man, you're doing it all wrong. He's like, the key is when you're talking slow, they can cut away from you because you're talking slow. The key is to talk really fast. Hey, I got this used car. I'm going to sell it to you for $50, and we're going to go over here and drink some pina coladas. Like when you talk fast, they can't cut away. So when you're talking fast, they can't cut to somebody else. That's why you talk fast. So then Garrett Graham, and if you think about all the screwball comedies from the 50s, how fast they talk. Now they did that because they wanted to save film. Like Warner Brothers, they said, talk fast on set so we can save money. We don't use as much film. But also they didn't have to cut away from him as much. So he taught Garrett Graham to talk faster. That way they couldn't cut away on the set of this movie. So if you watch it again, you'll sort of see some scenes where he's talking a little slow, and then some scenes where he's going really fast. And that's after Warden talked to him about, listen, man, they can't cut away from you. And Zemeckis is like, that son of a bitch was right. It was pretty funny. It's a good inside baseball